When she looked at them, she noticed something strange. Their eyes began to shine so brightly that they illuminated the room. Udoka watched in amazement as the voice spoke to her again, revealing that her babies were blessed with extraordinary powers. This was a power that no one had ever possessed before. Once upon a time, in a very small village, there lived a beautiful woman with her husband. Her name was Udoka, and she was heavily pregnant. Her husband loved her very much and did everything to make her comfortable. However, one night, he was brutally murdered by unknown men. This tragic event occurred on the 15th day of the month, when Udoka had just put her twin babies to bed. Some strange men broke into their home and took the babies. Her husband fought the men to retrieve the babies, but was instantly killed when one of the men plunged a large knife into his abdomen. Udoka, weak and helpless, watched in horror as the strange men took her babies. As her husband lay lifeless on the ground, she screamed loudly for help. When the villagers arrived, the men had already taken the babies and left Udoka in misery. All efforts to find the men were in vain, as Udoka mourned not only the death of her husband, but also the loss of her children. Months passed, and Udoka was now a widow who couldn't move past her grief. She constantly had nightmares of the strange men who killed her husband, making it difficult for her to sleep at night. One night, as Udoka was returning from the village market, she heard a loud scream from nearby bushes. She rushed to check who it was and saw a young boy who had fallen from a tree, crying out in severe pain. Udoka ran to help the boy and suddenly noticed his wounds beginning to heal. She stood there in shock, wondering how this was possible. The young boy, confused, thanked her and ran back to the village. Udoka had never experienced anything like this before and was perplexed when she returned home. She heard a voice deep within her heart telling her to run. Confused, she looked up and heard footsteps outside her house. Looking out the window, she saw the strange men trying to enter her home again. Udoka ran out the back door and fled as fast as her legs could carry her, with the men chasing after her. As she ran, she couldn't understand why the strange men were after her, but she knew she couldn't stop. She kept running until she heard the strange voice again, telling her to hide behind a certain tree. She hid behind the tree. The men reached the tree and searched, but could not see her. Udoka had become invisible. She stood there silently, watching the men as they thought she had escaped. After a few minutes, the men decided to turn back and return to where they came from. The voice then instructed Udoka to follow them despite her fear. Udoka obeyed the voice and quietly followed the strange men. When they reached their destination, the men still couldn't see her. A few minutes later, she could see them clearly as they arrived at a strange house on the outskirts of the village. Udoka had never seen this house before and wondered who might come out of it. Entering the house, she saw a woman holding her twin babies. Udoka wanted to approach the woman, but the strange voice warned her not to. It told her to wait and observe. As she watched, she saw the woman transform into a sinister-looking creature. The babies were scared and started crying. Udoka tried to run to her babies, but the voice urged her to stay calm and patient despite her anger. Trusting the voice, Udoka remained patient, watching as the evil witch frightened her loudly crying babies. A few minutes later, the witch vanished, leaving the babies all alone. The voice then commanded Udoka to take her babies and flee immediately. As Udoka picked up her babies and started running, the witch noticed the babies were gone and began searching for them everywhere. She performed various rituals but couldn't find the babies as they were protected by another powerful force. Udoka ran as fast as she could with her babies. The voice warned her never to go near her home again, as it would lead to her death. Instead, it directed her to a small cabin by the mountains and advised her to spend the night there. Udoka followed the voice's instructions and took refuge in the abandoned cabin. She was overjoyed to be reunited with her babies. On the night they were born, she had noticed that their eyes shone in a peculiar way, filling the room with light. Udoka watched in amazement as the voice spoke to her again, revealing that her babies were blessed with extraordinary powers. Udoka's twins not only had the power to protect those around them, but also the ability to imagine any kind of existence. This was why the witch was after them, to steal their unique powers for her own use. Udoka swore with all her heart to protect her babies from the evil witch's desires. Knowing how desperate she was to have her babies, she decided to move far away from the village the next morning. As they journeyed to distant lands, the witch confronted them again and tried to snatch the babies from Udoka's arms. Udoka screamed in anger, and suddenly, a great stream of water began to flow from her mouth, flooding the ground around her. What Udoka didn't know was that she, too, was blessed with supernatural powers, which she had passed on to her children at birth. The presence of her children awakened the power she never knew she had. Udoka recalled the young boy she had healed in the bushes and began to wonder where the voice was coming from. The voice then revealed its true identity to her. Udoka was the daughter of a very kind, selfless and hard-working woman. Her mother always helped those in need. One day, she encountered an elderly woman who struggled to walk alone. Udoka's mother, unaware of the woman's immense power, assisted her. In return, the powerful woman blessed Udoka's mother's womb, knowing she longed for a child. Udoka's mother had lost her son when he was only 5 years old and had been unable to conceive since then. The powerful woman blessed her with a child who would be exceptionally strong. That child was Udoka, and she had never known she possessed great powers all those years. As Udoka looked at her children, she realized she must protect them with all her strength. Although the witch had been weakened by Udoka's powerful waters, Udoka stood firm and ready to defend her children. She noticed her children's eyes shining brightly as they combined their strengths. Together, Udoka and her children channeled their energy to completely eliminate the witch. The ground beneath them opened up, and the earth swallowed the witch along with her evil powers. Seeing her enemies defeated, Udoka thanked the strange voice that had guided her. She then asked the voice who it was, and it revealed itself to be the guardian angel sent by the powerful woman to watch over her and her sons. Udoka thanked the voice once more as she returned to the cabin with her children. Years later, Udoka was filled with mixed emotions, wishing her husband could have been there to see their handsome sons. Her sons had grown into extraordinary young men who used their remarkable powers to improve the lives of those around them. The villagers, who once saw Udoka as a helpless widow, now spoke of her as a very strong woman. Her sons became the protectors of the village, safeguarding people from all kinds of harm. The lesson from this story is that even in the face of unimaginable hardships and losses, one can discover hidden strengths and abilities. The story reminds us that true power often lies dormant, waiting to be awakened, and that by selflessly helping others, we can unlock extraordinary potential within ourselves and those around us. We hope you enjoyed the story. Please subscribe and leave a comment to help grow our channel. See you in the next story. Goodbye.